I think like I've gotten more comfortable with failing and losing. I don't let my confidence be affected by failing. You know, 1 month hit where I had a $13,000 rent payment due and I had like 12.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. So I go to my janitor. I was like, you're fired. I go to the front desk person. I say, you're fired. I'm going to do both jobs.
Oh my gosh.
I borrowed $1,000. I paid the rent and I had nothing for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
So I'm like, okay, now I'm not successful, right?
I'm an entrepreneur. You have two choices. You either have to evolve to become the absolute best version of yourself, or you're gonna starve. The ability to trust other people, to hire out, to delegate, to trust investors, to do all these different things. Like, you have to do a lot of deep inner work on yourself. Welcome to this episode of the Confidence Quotient podcast. I am your host, Michael Carrillo. My co-host here, Zane Kaufman.
What up?
Joined by a really special guest here today, Les Spellman, Lester Spellman, the fourth,
Third, actually.
The third, yeah. There we go. Les is a good friend, man. He's honestly probably one of the most inspiring people I know, and that's just being real. Super excited to dive into your story, working with a lot of big-time athletes, having a lot of really awesome impact. But I've had the opportunity now to know you, dude, since I think 2017.
Yeah.
So it's been like 6 years that I've known you, and just to see the growth that you've had, just sort of the evolution of yourself and your brand over these last few years has been really inspiring to see, man. So super excited that you're here. Super excited that we get to dive in and kind of peel back some of the layers, man. So just getting started, I guess. When you first came out here to San Diego, it was a few years ago, and you and I were talking about this, but you felt like those first few years that you were out here like just weren't successful. And I was like, dude, and to me it looked like you were successful, man. I mean, like, you were working with a lot of pretty established athletes at the time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I might have started to see you at that tail end of you starting to, at least in your opinion, come out of not being in a great place success-wise into now where you're at now. But what was kind of like the mindset of when you first moved out here, maybe versus where you're at now?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dog.
It's awesome. You got a whole podcast voice now and all that.
Bro, you know what, dude? I think it's just the mic, bro. I think it's the mic.
I know, this is dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess like first starting out, like thinking about like what I thought was success. You know what I mean? So when I first got out to Cali, I was living in my car at the Walmart parking lot, like 2 miles up the road, and probably like $600. But in my mind, I was successful.
Yeah.
Like I left, I'd come to Cali, I had like followed through with what I said I was gonna do.
Yeah.
So I had this I was like, okay, this is successful. But then obviously as you grow and you realize like, okay, I'm deciding if I can put gas in my car, I can get food today.
Wow.
All right, now I know like I need to go to another level. So that's when I started like really getting into my craft. And what I thought was successful at first was like, I'm gonna train a bunch of guys. All right, so I'm gonna train a bunch of pros. I'm gonna do the whole draft thing, like you saw it.
Yeah. That
doesn't really give you like long-term like success or money. Like
right.
It's kind of a short-term thing. Like if you're training a guy for 2 months, like you can't eat off that the rest of the year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So at first, like I'm like, this is super successful. I get to the end of the period, probably around the time I met you, and I'm like, okay, this isn't successful, right? Then I get into the gym business. Like this is right around 2017, like right after the Johnny Manziel stuff, which we could touch on, whatever, like Jameis Winston, all that. And I get into the gym business, and like I remember I'd saved up like $30K in cash, and I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like living like a peasant at the time. Like I was eating turkey and rice every day. Like I was eating oatmeal packets. Like that was it, And I'd saved up money and got into the gym business, and I was like, okay, now I'm successful, right? And I'm making money, whatever. 1 month hit where I had a $13,000 rent payment due and I had like 12.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. So I go to my janitor. I was like, you're fired. I go to the front desk person. I say, you're fired. I'm going to do both jobs.
Oh my gosh.
I borrowed $1,000. I paid the rent and I had nothing for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
So I'm like, okay, now I'm not successful, right? So I kept going through these phases, and then I go finally make that successful. And then I realized, like, man, if I stop working today, like if I don't go to work today, I have no money coming in, right?
Yeah.
So I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how to scale. So, I mean, it's like tough because like at every level you think you've made it. Like right now, like if you asked me 2 months ago, like, are you successful? I'm like, yeah. Now I'm 2 months in. I'm like, I'm about to have another kid, just got married. Like, there's a whole other level.
Yeah,
so it's like
yeah.
tough to define, but
Sure.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I guess as you kind of maybe reflect on the journey then, what do you feel like your confidence level has been throughout that process? Like, you know, we talk about this a lot on the show where you have kind of like a notch of wins that you just keep tallying up, and that can help us with our confidence. You also have kind of like on the other end, like a reservoir of how many hardships you've been through that also can kind of give you confidence as you overcome certain things. So it's like, as you're at now versus 6 years ago where you were sleeping, you know, in the parking lot, are there still like the ebbs and flows in confidence there, or are you still like, you feel like it's more of like a linear progression?
Yeah, honestly, like I feel like the confidence part comes from like going to war. So, like, I've been through so many wars now, and I've like dealt with so much stuff that like, can I curse?
Yeah, you absolutely.
Say whatever you
Dealt
like.
with so much shit like that now. Like I have more confidence from, and I look at confidence as like breaking it down into the actual root of the word, like con meaning with, fid, which breaks down to fidelity, like trust, and then dense is like translated into God. So with trust in God. So like I've learned to trust God over time, and I've learned to like take the wars and the battles I've gone through to provide confidence. Like, but it's interesting because like I had a ton of confidence in the beginning, or I thought it was more arrogance. It was like I had to create a persona like that was kind of outside of myself to then reach where I wanted to get to. Like I had to push and push and push, and I wasn't like genuinely myself.
Yeah.
So when things broke, I lost my confidence, but it wasn't really confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now it's like, I think like I've gotten more comfortable with failing and losing. Like I don't let my confidence be affected by failing. And in the beginning, like every win you're like yes, and every loss you're like damn.
Yeah.
But now it's like they feel the same.
Right.
In some sense of the word. So like the real win is like the family stuff, my daughter, you know, all that. The other stuff is like all secondary.
Yeah.
If I take a loss right now, it's like not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce back.
Yeah.
What does the internal dialogue look like? You know, you obviously went from so many different things that you thought were going to be successful. What is kind of that internal dialogue of from, you know, going from the gym to training guys to this to this to this? What does that look like?
Really, like, all right, so it depends on which phase, right? So in the beginning, I'm driven by like I want to prove everyone wrong, you know, and like I was so fueled by anger. So I get to a point where that kind of runs out, and then I'm like, you know, burnt out. I'm tired. So my internal dialogue was extremely negative. It was like, I just don't want to be a failure. It was like all that. And then now it's more of like, now I feel like I'm just following the steps like day to day. It's kind of like if you're a quarterback and you want to get better at quarterback, you just get better session to session and like day to day, and you're kind of like in that moment. And it's kind of the same thing for me now. It's just like day to day, like my internal dialogue is more focused on like the structures of what I need to do like daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not really too far in the future. I'm not really too worried about like the outcomes, you know?
Yeah.
And I was so outcome driven before. I got to have this car. I got to have this house. I got to have, you know, this thing. I got to fly here and do this and travel the world. And I did all that stuff. And I didn't get anything from it. You know what I mean? Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't care like what money I made or what, you know, experience I had. It left me empty.
Yeah.
You know? And so now like the outcomes, like I don't think of it like I need to get to this point. I need to get the number 1 draft pick. Like I really don't care. Like, I need to go pick my daughter up at 5:30. Right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I need to do.
Right.
And I need to put her to bed at 8:30. So if something is not in alignment with that, I'm not chasing it.
I mean, just hearing that, like, I feel like your perspective is so mature and so just deep, you know, and I feel like that obviously it wasn't always the case. And I know before you even moved out here to San Diego, you would kind of run into some stuff back home out east. And you kind of had like a life-changing moment for you. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Which one? No, I'm just playing. No, but when I was like 15 through 17 was like the one period of my life that I like experienced some like crazy hardships. And like honestly, like before that, I had a really like calm, normal life. Like I was probably pretty spoiled, and like you know, I had both parents and all that. But I moved to DC, and like I was coming from like a really rural area, and like I mean, there was like nothing happening when I was growing up. And then I moved to DC, which at the time was like a pretty active place. Like it was a lot different. You know, it's an urban spot. Like at the time, it was extremely dangerous, and I was experiencing like just anger and everything else. So long story short, I was hanging with like a whole different crowd than I was in, you know, and I was finding like, I feel like now, even now, like you find people that are matching your energy.
Yeah.
So I found some other angry guys, and, you know, we were just angry together. So we started doing things like racing cars. We started, you know, just acting out. I won't say everything on here. I don't know the statute of limitations. But like, you know, like, no, not, we never did anything crazy or anything bad. But, you know, we were just like a little bit more reckless. Yeah. And I got in a really, really, really bad car accident. Like we were traveling 120 miles per hour. I'm in the back seat, no seatbelt.
Jeez.
Slam into the median and then slam into like an on-ramp and split the car in half. And in that process, it fractured my femur. So like broke my leg in half and compound fracture, get airlifted to the hospital. And they're like, it was for real. So I'm 17. I'm not really that great of an athlete, not really that great of a student. I don't really have much of a drive or direction. I don't really know like which direction I'm even going to end up in, or I don't care. You know, to be honest, like I'm so blinded by anger in the moment. And then I get this life-changing event that's like fractured femur. You're not going to walk. You're never going to run again. I almost got amputated, and I'm in the ICU, right? And I have a what's it called? A morphine button, so like I can press it whenever. So now I'm addicted to opioids, right? Like you know what I mean? So I'm going through this at 17 years old, and it was like at that point it was the first time I had clarity and direction, and also like the first time I experienced like what God is, you know. And I had this voice that was like, all right, you're gonna run, you're gonna go to the Olympics, you're going to do all this stuff, and I'm like, check, I believe it, yep. So I get home. I get home from that, and I'm in a wheelchair. I can't go to the bathroom by myself. I have a catheter. I have a crap bag. You know what I'm saying? Like I have all this. I'm 17 years old. You know, I wasn't even in high school anymore.
Man.
And I look at my mom, and she was like, "We're gonna get rid of these pills." I was like, "Yep." So she went to the bathroom, dumped them out, and mind you, like I have an open wound. My whole leg is open, stapled together. You know, I have titanium down my entire leg, and my mom threw out all the pain pills. So I went cold turkey, no pain medication, nothing. And like that's when I really experienced God. Well, I experienced the devil first, but like you know, like I went through hell during this period, like going through withdrawing from morphine and withdrawing from whatever they gave me, OxyContin, whatever, and dealing with that. Plus the pain of having a fractured femur and a completely, like my whole left side was like destroyed. And then also being 17 and not being able to walk, and my friends coming to walk me in a wheelchair around the block, you know? So
when you say like experiencing the devil, like what are you hearing at that time? What are the temptations that are coming up for you? And
dude, everything. Like it's so crazy because like I've blacked out a lot of this from my brain. Yeah. But it was such a test. Like I wanted to just get like medication. I was in so much pain. I was going through so much, and it was like I just wanted to stop. You know, I'll do anything to make it stop. And luckily I made it through. And like honestly, it wasn't like there's people that have dealt with way worse. Like if you have a morphine drip for like 6 weeks, and it could be bad. And I was probably like 2.5. And then I got home, and I basically took like 2 days of medicine, and that was it. So I had a very low level like withdrawal. But, like, there's people that are years into it that have, like, crazy withdrawals. And, you know, going through that is, like, experiencing, like, what hell is. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Actually, the pain of withdrawing was worse than the pain of my broken femur.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you tell your mom that you felt like you were getting addicted, or is that something that she could tell without you even saying anything?
She could tell. Yeah. She could tell because, like, my personality was changing, you know? And also, like, TMI, but, like, when you're taking all that medicine and dealing with pain, and you're taking it every hour, it like stops you up. So you get like constipated and other issues, and you go through other pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like too much for me. Like I just like I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Dude.
so I just went cold turkey.
Go mom,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, no
Go
facts.
mom.
That's tough, dog.
Life changing. Yeah,
That's
'cause
tough.
I have friends that are, you know, that went the other route and still addicted.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so like when you're sitting in this hospital bed and you feel like you've got this voice of God telling you, like laying out a vision for you, and then you're going through this test kind of like right away, what was the thing that kept you holding on to like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that I see this thing out?
Yeah, like it's interesting because at first, like, I was very clear in the vision, but like I think I told you guys, like the most important thing to me was proving everyone wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so like it manifests in different ways, kind of like where you're at. So I used my anger the first couple of years, and that powered me. Like I was just like 4:30. I set an alarm every day at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. Woke up, I did something. So like I would like at first it was just like see if I could sit up, and then eventually it was like see if I can step with the walker, and then it was like eventually go to the bathroom by myself.
Yeah.
I lived in DC. Like we had like a tall house. Like you've seen it. Like they're not like in Cali where it's one story, so I couldn't go upstairs, but the shower's upstairs, so I couldn't shower. This is months. So I had to like scrub myself in a bucket, you know? So I was like, all right, let's achieve that. So it was just like steps, but it was powered by like being angry. Like I need to prove everyone wrong. And then eventually I get to the point where it's like I'm walking with the walker, or like I'm taking 2 steps of my own. All right, now I'll move to the next thing. It was just like a progression.
Yeah.
It took 18 months.
Yeah.
18 months every single day, multiple times a day working on it. You know?
Do you think that pain like gave you purpose and gave you some fuel too? Because you mentioned before, like it didn't sound like you really found anything that you were passionate about. Like school didn't really seem that. You might have been into sports, but not at a very committed level. Like going through something that hard, did that kind of give you something to use as an outlet now?
Yeah, like I feel like I was afraid to take risks before that, and then I get to this point, and it's like worst thing that could ever happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm no longer afraid of risk. Like I'll take the risk, and I don't care what people think anymore because like I've been through it. I remember like everybody was there the first 3 days where I'm in the wheelchair, but then all of a sudden no one's coming. You know, I'm by myself, so I stopped caring what people think, and that gave me power. But like it's the same with everything you go through. You have to go through the phases. It's like the stages of grief. You got to go through anger, sadness. I don't remember what they are, but like you have to go through those phases. So I'm in each phase thinking it's the end of, like, I'm always going to be angry. I'm always going to be this. And then you move to the next one. You think you're always going to be hopeless. And then you move to the next one. You think you're always going to be sad. And it's like you go through these stages, but each stage gives you power to get through where you're at.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's really powerful, too, looking back, because now you've got the perspective of, okay, these were just different seasons. But when you're going in it, it feels like, oh, my God, this is eternal, man.
You think you're in it forever.
Yeah.
You think you're in it forever.
Yeah.
But that's like, that right there taught me, like, all right, if I want to build a business, if I want to do whatever, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Like you can't go into something thinking like, all right, this will be light. Like I'm just going to get it. It's like, I welcome that. That's why I was sleeping in my car at Walmart.
Yeah.
And I stacked $30K before I moved.
Yeah.
You know, like,
dude, we call this show the confidence quotient. I feel like we should call it like the risk quotient, man. We've talked to so many people that are killing it now, that have been homeless, that have been willing to bet on themselves literally to zero because they saw the vision and they believed in themselves that much. So you're on the East Coast now. You go through this rehab process. You fight through an addiction. You fight through, all the things that come with that. What made you say, all right, I got to move out here to San Diego?
Yeah, well, there's an in-between stage. So it's crazy. Is like I actually started 18 months after I broke my leg. I walked on a Division I track team. It's like, like it was crazy. Like I'd worked myself all the way to that level. Like it was crazy to even think about. Like I thought that was it. I thought when I got to this team, like they're gonna teach me everything. Like I'm gonna be an Olympian. And you just think like the progression I made in 18 months, imagine another 18 months. But that's not necessarily how it works.
Right.
Yeah. So you get to a point where it like kind of flatlines and a whole different level of work has to happen. So I try to apply the same level of work that I've been doing, like angry, aggressive, attack, be like, wake up at 4:30 in the morning, don't sleep, whatever. Well, that don't work in college.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get to college and I'm striking out. Like I'm not getting that much better. And I was like thinking about different things. Like I tried everything to get faster. I YouTubed, I Googled, I went to libraries on the weekend, and I was like, how do I get faster? And I realized like there's not much out there. Like there wasn't like somebody I could point to, like this guy will make me faster.
Yeah.
You know, so I looked at it as like a gap in the market. So already in college, I'm thinking like, all right, I'm probably gonna end up coaching. You know, I just need to find my way there. So California entered because I had an opportunity to play rugby. And rugby is based in San Diego. The Olympic Training Center is based here. And basically I just took it, and I ended up making like, I didn't make the Olympic team, but I got into like the realm of like Olympic development stuff. And that brought me to San Diego. And pretty quickly when I got here, like I'd never been here before. I was like, people live like this? Like people really live, like this is amazing. Like the weather's nice, people are nice, everything's nice. Like I'm never leaving. And ended up getting a job as a coach for the rugby team. But check this out. They hired me as a speed coach.
Wow.
You know, and it had never been done. Like there'd never been an Olympic speed coach.
Yeah.
And that was like my first like actual gig.
Yeah.
So, like,
and I want to keep diving into the development of that. Just, you know, I mean, I've trained with a lot of dudes. You're like, and I mean this literally, bro, you're like a scientist, bro. I tell this to everybody. Like, you know, I think growing up, probably for you as well, Zane ran track. Zane was actually a really great track athlete.
I appreciate that.
But, you know, growing up, all you hear is like, you can't teach speed. You can't teach speed. You can't teach speed, right? Like that's all you hear growing up, or it's like, get your knees up, or, you know, you hear all these like really basic things. So, you know, that pain kind of gave you purpose. It also started to shape the vision of what the future is going to look like for you. It's so cool too how God can make those things work. And, you know, he obviously gave you a vision for the Olympics. He didn't tell you that you're going to be running the Olympics, but he told you that you were going to be in the Olympics.
Yeah, which
right?
is crazy because I've done 56 Olympians now.
Yeah.
And 5 Olympic Games.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, if you include the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. So let's keep going on that track then. So now you're the speed coach for the Olympic team for the rugby team out here.
Yeah.
First like coach of your kind, I guess, in that sort of realm. Like what were you looking at, or like how did you start to put together? I mean, there's no curriculum that you're going off of, right? Like you're kind of.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like honestly, all right. So this is hilarious. Hopefully they're not watching this. Sorry. All right, so like at the Olympic Training Center, you have the track team, you have the rugby team, you have like some soccer, everyone's around. So like I'd get brought in because like I'd already kind of started coaching kids just to like be around and do some stuff, but I didn't really have that much experience. You know, like I really didn't. Like I really, this is 2015. I kind of knew what I was doing because I ran track and I tried and failed. I didn't know how to teach it. So I go down to the track and like I'm watching Jeremy Fisher, Dan Paff, like all these like top guys.
Yeah.
I just think they're like older, smart guys. I didn't realize they were the best in the world. Like in my field, they are the GOATs, like the best ever. But that's how God works. It's like, I had no idea what I was doing. I went to those guys, brought my notebook, asked a couple questions, and then I would go right over to the field and I'll go do the same thing with those guys.
Yeah.
And it worked. Like we were the fastest team in the world. We went up to a #1 ranking in the world. And obviously that wasn't all what I was doing, and some of it impacted it, I'm sure. But just the idea of having like dedicated speed sessions for a team outside of like outside of the weight room and all that stuff was like kind of brand new. 2015, like nobody was really doing it. And I just like kept buying into like what I was seeing other coaches do, and I just started studying. So I had a coach tell me like, you should read 3 hours a day. I was like, done. So then I just started that practice. So like when I started reading different aspects, like how to communicate, how to build relationships, how to give like cueing. So like getting the knees up cue, does that work? Why doesn't it work? Well, it's too far away from the brain to process like that. Like you need to focus on the hips, like different things like that. I started to really understand. And the thing is like I never thought that coaching was going to be my thing, which is funny because I'm coaching the Olympic team.
Yeah.
I think I'm going back to play, and I think that I'm going to do something completely different for work. So I'm just kind of doing it, but because of that, I had no fear. I didn't care. Like if they got rid of me, I'd be like, cool, don't care. You know, like it doesn't matter. You know. And because of not caring and that fear, like that apathy there, I feel like I actually got better because I was willing to take the risk.
Right.
And then I started to fall in love with it and realize, like, this is my purpose. Like, this is what I'm actually good at. And I think, like, right after the Olympics is kind of when I met you, and I was, like, poor because Olympic teams don't pay.
Yeah.
Surprise. That's a whole other podcast. So we'll keep in the vault until after this next Olympics. But, yeah, like, I was like, I need to make money, and I jumped into the NFL space.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's when I met George Whitfield.
Right.
And he asked me, what do you do? And I was like, I coach speed. He's like, for who? I said, U.S. Olympic team. He said, no, you need to rephrase how you say that. Say that you are an Olympic speed coach. I'm like, all right. So that's kind of how it got born.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the time that I met you, and you were working with, right away, you started working with some really big-time dudes, obviously through George. But when I first started working out with you, we were working out with, like Kenny Hill, TCU's quarterback at the time, and Richard Lego and all these dudes. And, I literally would show up and I'd be working with these dudes, because they were getting ready for their pro day. I was still in college and just kind of just tagging along and training with them. But, literally seeing a guy go from running on the first day of his draft prep, running like a 5.140 to you fast forward a couple months to his pro day. Same dude.
Yeah.
There's no body doubles, bro. He's the same dude. He's running now like a 4.6 or something, and literally shaving off half of a second off of a 40. Yeah. So that started to open the doors for a lot of different things. And now you've trained. How many first rounders have you trained now at this point?
I don't even know. It's been a lot. It's like 20, probably 20.
Yeah. And I think too, like a cool maybe parallel to like your transition into working with NFL athletes is also just continue to build the brand and the business. Like I view you so much more as a trainer, dude. Like you're an entrepreneur, and I see you, obviously all the different things that you're doing. But talk about like how that progression maybe paralleled like you starting to work in the NFL stuff, but also like building a brand and building a business around that as well.
Well, first, like getting someone faster isn't hard. Like you don't need to know that much. Like and that's the thing that you get into a business, and the first thing you want to do is you want to capture real estate in that business. So it's really, it's a tactic people use is like, this is more complex than it actually is. So you have to come to me. But the reality is it's not that complex. Like if you do a couple of things consistently, you get faster. Maybe not a half a second, but you will get like 0.2 seconds. My mom could probably train half these guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're all pretty talented. So what I was looking at was like, why is it so complex? Like somebody needs to take the industry and scale simplicity and help other people get started, because like I knew what running did for me. So I'm like, okay, I want other people to experience that. So maybe they're battling depression, maybe they're battling like bullying, whatever it is. Like here's something that changed my life. I want to spread this. So I looked at it from a value standpoint of like, I want to help more people. I don't really care about the money part. I want to help more people. So I stuck with that mission. I was like, the best vehicle to help people athletes is coaches, because coaches will dictate kind of like your life. And so I started giving resources to coaches, and then that turned into like charging a little bit more, and that turned into a business. Like I never thought about building a business. Like I never looked at it like we can grow this business to this valuation. It was always like we can impact more people. And I never focused on I need this dollar amount. And I just kept growing because I was willing to give and grow. And then I realized like there's like that is a superpower. Like the more you give, the more you're actually going to receive. Like God's going to give you. And so like we built a software. It's crazy. We have 55 training centers.
Man.
We've grown it a ton. Like we work with colleges. I work full time at the University of Arizona.
I saw that.
But it's funny because it's like, not saying it's easy work, because it is hard. The hard part is the relationships. Like the easy part is you can make you guys can go out in the parking lot and make someone's grandma faster, like in 2 minutes. Like it's not hard. It's a relationship. It's the relationship. It's the how you communicate. When do you communicate? What do you communicate? That's the secret right there. So there's not like a special exercise. There's not like whatever. It's literally just like, and it's the same in business. Like there's plenty of people that aren't Harvard MBAs, but they can communicate really, really, really well. And that's why That's why they're pushing. Yeah.
People, I think a lot of times people want to know, like, dude, what's the secret sauce? What's the fluff? It's like, dude, you got to be really good at the fundamentals. You got to be really good at the little things there. As you, like, I'm just trying to put all of this in perspective. You moving out here, you really didn't have exposure to professional athletes where you were back home, right? Like,
hell no.
You weren't around, like, the circles that you're in now are nowhere near, like, what you came from. And this all happened, I mean, like, relatively quickly, like in the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, like, dude, from where you were to where you are now. Was there ever a sense of, like, as you're starting to train Olympians, like, is there really this imposter syndrome that's creeping up and talking to you, or
all the time?
Yeah. So how'd you handle that?
Honestly, because, like, I remember standing on the field. This is, like, right before that. And I looked up and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, am I the right person? Like, am I gonna make this team? Or, like, training, like, my first rounder. Well, I had Quentin Williams, 2018, and I was like, is he gonna run a 6-second 40? Like you doubt yourself. But as an athlete, we always referred, like, our coach always referred to this little voice in the back of our head that's gonna be really negative, like, just stop running, you're tired, get some water, like, whatever it is. And, like, I just recognize that as my little voice. Like, it's always there. It never, ever goes away, ever. Like, and people think, like, oh, when you get to the level of confidence, that imposter thing goes away. No, not if you're, like, really pushing, because you're always going to go to a new level. And every level you get to, it's the same feeling. It's the same one. Like, but I also recognize that, kind of like you get butterflies before a game. I recognize that means I'm supposed to be here. So it's like, if I don't feel that feeling, I get worried. I'm like, I should feel that feeling. I should be feeling like, damn, this is a little bit stretched. And it just means, like, I look at it this way, and it's a really simple thing to think about. It could seem complex, but really your nervous system has a cap. Like, your nervous system loves to be comfortable. It likes to be neutral. It doesn't like too much up or down. So, like, you'll always find yourself in the same patterns because your nervous system wants similar feelings. And as soon as you stretch yourself, so Olympic team, first rounder, whatever, things that people think are important, your nervous system it feels like it's attacked. It's like, whoa, this is outside of my norm. I don't even know how to process it. Like, I shouldn't be processing this. Like, this is too much. And what it does is it upper limits you. So it says you've passed your limit. So I need to pull you back down. So it starts feeding you this information. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. I have no degree or certifications. Like, our brain will tell me that. Or, like, you weren't that fast as an athlete, so how are you teaching other people? Like, you start getting all of these things, right? And that's upper limiting. So whenever I start to feel that, I know, like, I'm in the right place.
Yeah. I love how you switch that perspective on it, because a lot of people, they allow that voice, and David Goggins calls it, like, the little bitch voice. It's that little bitch voice inside of you that, and people think, oh, well, he's successful, Les is successful, he must not have that, or he must just have that ultimate confident self. But you're saying, no, like, I need to feel that, because in order to know that I'm growing and stretching myself, that needs to be present.
Yeah, it just means you're being stretched. And, like, it's just like an athlete. Like, if you go in there and you squat 135 for 6 months straight, it's like, you're not going to grow. You're not going to get stronger. You have to get to the point where you're going to feel fatigue. You're going to maybe go to failure in the weight room. It's going to be tough. You're going to be sore. You're going to, like, you have to stretch yourself. And that's where, like, I feel the same in my world. It's like, as soon as I start feeling normal and I get in a routine, I just start sabotaging myself to go higher. Yeah. Not go lower, go higher. And then welcome that feeling of, like, imposter every single time, bro.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I mean, you've trained, like, a lot of first rounders. And we're going to dive a little bit more into these other little threads too. But, like, obviously working with Kobe, working with, like, some really big time people. You got VaynerMedia, Gary Vee, all that stuff. Was there ever a moment, I mean, dude, it's milestone after milestone, that you were like, okay, dude, I think I made it. Like, I think I actually got where I needed to be.
No.
Still chasing.
No.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like you imagine it, and it's way better as you imagine it. And then you get there, and it's like, kind of expected it. Like, because of the work that you're doing and how hard you're targeting it. But then it becomes, to be honest, less important. So when I first started, I was thinking, what can everything give me? And now I get frustrated on what I'm giving other people. So, like, I get frustrated. Not, like, I don't care. Like, we got you know, we work with Vayner, work with this first rounder, like it doesn't move the needle for me. I get frustrated, and I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm thinking about these kids that aren't getting something. You know what I mean? So like it switches. So I feel way more anxious about that than getting another first rounder.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I don't care. Like I may not get any more first rounders. You know? I would not truthfully not care.
Right.
But if kids aren't getting work, then I care. Yeah.
How much of it is running away from that little voice in your head and feeling maybe that you're not doing enough that drives you kind of to that next thing? Like, is it more of running away from yourself, or is it more, I want to do more?
Yeah, it's I don't feel like my mission's completed.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like God gives everyone a purpose and a mission, and along the way you'll have distractions. So I feel like distractions are, you get the first rounder and everyone thinks you're the man. That's a distraction. You're the same person. Or like you make money for the first time, everyone thinks you're different. No, you're the same person. All that is irrelevant, because those are just things that are meant to deter you from your actual mission. And your actual mission has a lot to do with, like, for me, well, my actual mission is like working with the kids and helping the kids get better, right? So there's things that will deter that, because I get a first rounder, I get this call, I get that call, and I have to say no a lot of times when it comes to things now, because it could distract me from what I'm actually doing. It could feed my ego. And every time I get something that feeds my ego and it doesn't feed the other side, then I have to weigh that. You have to weigh that. You know?
When was that kind of breaking point for you? Because I know when you first moved out here, you mentioned like it felt like arrogance, or it felt like anger, and you were like there's like almost just like gritting your teeth to make something happen and prove people that you're there. When did that start to shift for you?
When I had my daughter. Yeah, when I had my daughter. Because then it's like you realize that every person that's born had that, their parents had that same experience with that kid, that baby that's lying there. And, you know, they can't do anything for themselves. And you got to teach them every single step of the way. And then you just really realize, like, what life's actually about, you know? Like, it's not about how many things can I be successful at, like, how good can I be. It's really about you building everybody around you. And it's building your community, and then taking that and then building it and building it and building it and growing it. And, like, I'm so motivated to do that. Like, everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, I used to want, like, the biggest Nike deal and the biggest, I don't care. What is that going to do?
Yeah.
It's not going to do nothing.
Right.
You know? It's going to make you feel empty. I had everything you could think of.
Yeah.
Empty. Yeah. So when I had my daughter, it was shocking. I'm like, oh, wow. This is the feeling that I've been, like, waiting for, you know? This is the feeling, like, I thought that getting the first round draft pick would feel that way. The first number one pick I had, the next day I went right back to work.
Yeah.
No, actually that night, let's go. It didn't change anything, you know? Like, you don't get, like, a wire transfer for $30 million when you train a number one pick. People would think that. I'm like, no, like, you're poor if you don't turn that into something. So, yeah, it really was the first time that I felt, like, complete. Yeah. And then I realized what that feeling was, and I realized, like, what my actual purpose was, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's really cool to see that too, because, you know, I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this too, where people do, you know, they start a family, or they start, you know, they get a kid. And, you know, I think there's a balance to that too, because sometimes people can just be complacent after that, right? Or it's just like, okay, now I've got like my constant fix of dopamine. Like, I'm just going to do enough now just to get by, to just do, like, it doesn't seem like that's really been the case for you. Like, obviously you're spending all the quality time with them, but your foot's still like on the gas. Why is that?
It's actually more on the gas now. Like, I go harder, just in a different direction. It's not, I'm not chasing things for me now. I'm chasing like things for the family, and then growing that outside of there. Because at the end of the day, it's like, as a parent, like, all parents that are listening can understand this. Like, you want better experiences for your kids, and in order to have better experiences, you have to have them in the right places, and you have to have time. So you have to create time, and you create time by creating value. The more value the higher value you can create, the more time you can create for yourself. So that's why.
Yeah. That's dope to hear, man. So, you know, I kind of want to dive back into some of the things that you've been able to do, and you know, obviously you've got to work with some really cool people. Talk about, like, what it was like working with Kobe. I know that you were working up at Sports Academy with him for a little bit.
Well, Kobe just has a presence. Like, he walks in the room, and, like, it just has his presence. Like, it's supreme confidence. It's like, Oh man, like I'm getting chills thinking about
Yeah.
it. Like it was crazy. Super direct, super honest, like very, very, very aggressive. Like,
Yeah.
And everything that you think he would be, he was at. You know, it's kind of weird. It's like kind of expect what he's gonna be like, and it's like, oh, he's exactly like that.
Yeah.
But that really pushed me to be like excellent at what I do. Like not just like treat it like my mom's an artist, and you could get away with being an artist and being really famous, making a lot of money, like kind of cheating and doing a little bit like less here and a little bit less there, and like no one would ever know.
Yeah.
And like what Kobe did is like he taught me that to be excellent in every part. Like you can't just be a great coach. You got to be a great father, and a great husband, and great friend. And how you carry yourself in here, if you're different people all day, like you have like cognitive dissonance, like you're different people, and you create different realities for different people, and people know different sides of you. So you have to find a way to merge all those together. And that's what I learned from Kobe. So, yeah.
He's, man, obviously, like, gone way before his time. It was everything that you're saying, though, is like, going from basketball to then starting his essentially like film career and becoming like a producer, but also, still taking that basketball mindset, starting a really, really high level sports academy, out of LA, like, just to see all of that stuff. I mean, I just wish we could have seen more of it,
Yeah,
no kidding.
Facts.
And then, so then talk about too, then, you're obviously now with Vayner Sports, you got a chance to work with them, Gary Vee, the GOAT. How did that connection kind of get set up?
Man, so I was I still am the biggest Gary fan.
Yeah.
Like, every podcast.
What about him, like, really, like, resonates with you?
The simplicity of, like, and then it resonated with, like, my idea about value, like, create value, give value. The more value you give, that's your marketing. Like, I hate marketing. Continuously give value, give things away, and you'll find the right customers. But like give, and then just being kind to people. It's like I really, really, really like that. Like I was attracted to him for that, and then I found out his brother was doing the agency thing, and I'm like, man, I'm on it. So this is 2018. They don't even know who I am. I'm approaching them at the NFL Combine with a business card, like, hey, I'm Wes, and they're like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, sure you are. All right. But then all of a sudden, like I started climbing in the space, and like I'm working with every agent, as you know, like CAA, WME, and I'm reaching back out to Vayner, like, yo, I'm here now, and ended up getting a couple guys. Like I had Desmond Ritter, he killed it. Had a couple more guys, and they killed it. Aiden Hutchinson, and they were like, hey man, you want to just do this together? And I was like, yes, please. And like, I remember at one point I was talking to Gary, and I was telling him, I was like, yo, I had a conversation with you in 2018. And he told me to read your book, Jab, Jab, Right Hook. I read it, and then I told him where I scaled my business from, like 10x. He's like, no way. He's like, I don't even remember that. I'm like, yeah, bro, it shifted my life. So it was like a huge opportunity for me to work with people I like. And just go.
And just more impact, bro. Like I feel like that's the biggest thing is the more like you can kind of get into rooms like that with people that are killing it, like just the more impact that you can have, right? Now you do. I mean, you just work with so many people. Is there somebody that's like surprised you, maybe one way or the other?
I gotta be careful about this.
Yeah, and we can.
Mike's trying to get you in trouble.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
No, surprise me in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
All right, so I've worked with this guy, Perry Baker.
Okay.
You've worked with Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he made the Olympic team at 28, which is like kind of old.
Later,
for an Olympian. Well, he's 38 now. Yeah. He's about to be 38. He's 37 right now. And he's going on his third Olympics. And he's literally been named the best player in the world twice now, which is crazy. Like, think about how many players are in the world. The fact that he started at 28.
Yeah.
And he's still going on Olympics 3. And we're still working together. So this is 10 years.
Jeez.
And I've just seen him progress year to year to year to year. And I've never seen somebody approach the game the way he approaches the game. Like he's so meticulous, and he's such a learner. Like, I'm 34, and I'm starting to get a little stubborn. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much learning I'm doing when it comes to this stuff. And he's still learning. So I would say him, probably Jaden Shaw, who plays for the Wave right now.
Yeah.
She's 18.
Wow.
Working with her is like working with, like, this this is somebody who's the GOAT. Like, is going to be the best player of all time. Like, I know it just from her mindset. Like, she has that aggression. She has that, but she has a little swag to her. And, like, she has a chip on her shoulder. Like, she's like, I'm the best player. I am the best player. She knows she's the best player. And then Elisa Hickey, you've worked with Elisa.
Yeah.
She's unbelievable. Like, she'll be in the Olympics this year. So, yeah, probably those three.
That's crazy. Yeah, and it's cool to see too. And I've seen, like, obviously on like your social media, that you've literally been working with a lot of these kids since they were kids.
Yeah,
and now
10, 11 years.
Yeah, 10, 11 years. And now they're, you know, in college running at big time D1 programs or, you know, doing that. And now you get to kind of just be a part of that whole journey.
Yeah.
And now obviously, like, you got a daughter. They're like,
oh yeah, no,
are there expectations on that or?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's sports. I'm hoping it is, but it could be like dance or something. But there's an expectation, whatever she does. Like, she's got to go. Be great at it. Yeah, she's got to go. Like,
she's got to get it.
Like, I was looking at this stat the other day. I've 6 people that I've worked with, but under the age of 18, have ended up in the Olympics.
Wow.
So, yeah, 6, and like that's really high, and it's crazy. So like, and I think now after this next one, it'll be like 12. Like, it's insane. So and it's almost like I could just write it out for you. Like, if you give me your child, which you should, I could write out a plan, and he like would go to the Olympics as long as he doesn't do, you know.
Bro, I've told Zane so many times, bro, dude, as soon as I have a kid, bro, I'm calling Les up in the hospital room.
I'm calling Les right.
Yeah.
After this, I'm going to be like, Les, bro, my boy.
Bro, I'm telling you, even down to like what to do when they're crawling, how to get them start walking, like what to do when they start walking.
Yeah.
I have my daughter doing depth drops.
Man, I needed to call this guy 18 months ago. I have a 1.5-year-old.
I got you.
Little boy.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too late. I got you.
So, I mean, dude, like, you're doing a lot of cool things now. Obviously, I guess we're building out programs for babies, too. So,
listen, bro.
You know, he's doing a lot of cool things. Yeah. You know, you've got a brand new training facility here in San Diego.
Yeah.
What was kind of the vision behind that?
My daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to build something for her to go to after school. And then just, like, I had the facility 2017, 2018, left and did the Kobe thing. And we got to the point where it was like, our business is 85% digital. Like, probably even more, honestly. Probably more than that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like, I want to feel connected to the community again. Like, I wasn't. Like, I was in my house or, like, traveling. I took, like, 75 flights last year, 65 this year. So I was like, all right, I need to chill out and get rooted and stay still. And I just wanted to help the kids around, because kids were always asking, like, I want to train. Like, my neighbors, like, I want to train. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Yeah. But I was like, I'm only doing it if my wife Triana can run it, because, like, I don't want to run it.
Yeah.
And she was like, all right, I'll do it. Like, I'll take a step back from real estate. And so she runs it. So,
I love it.
Yeah, it's like really, it's small right now. Like, we just have a few classes a day, and we'll, like, grow it as we grow. But I got, like, 14 years minimum with it, because my daughter, actually, I'm having another one, so really 18 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I love that.
Dude, this guy's going to have little sub-bantams and blocks, starting out.
Bro, I believe it. I believe it.
Little 5-year-olds.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
I got you.
So you got the facility. You also just launched, is it Universal
Speed Rating?
Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah, actually, so that's since 2020. Like, we raised money, did the whole, like, venture route. And really what we're trying to do, like, we set out to quantify, like, what is fast, and what is fast for age group, what is fast for sport, what is fast for gender, and just really spreading it and making it, like, open. And that really turned into people asking, like, well, how do I get faster? So that turned into, like, programs, that turned into courses, that turned into, like, actual software to, like, analyze how you run. And it's progressed to that now. So we have 55 training centers now that use our software. And, like, it's called Speed Lab. It's so cool. Like, you come in, you get assessed, and you go. And our first 2 clients in that business were Alyssa and Giselle Thompson. If you don't know them, you will. They're like Venus and Serena, but on steroids. Like, they're 10 times better. Like, they're 18 and 19. One's on the national team. The next one is about to be on the national team.
Wow.
And for women's soccer. And they're the best 2, like, sister combo in the world at any sport. Like, they're unreal. And they were our first 2 clients. And, like, it's so crazy when I think about it, because, like, we have their data, and they're incredible. Like they're the best athletes I've ever seen. Just like incredible.
Wow.
But yeah, like it's really just came from that idea of like scaling value, getting more people in the system, helping more people, helping more coaches. And yeah, it's grown. So we have 30,000 people in our database now.
Wow.
30,000. I mean, I don't know how many tests now. Hundreds.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, could you see that being used by like, you know, I don't know, like the NFL, like, you know, or maybe other big
leagues
that are like, hey, we want to see, you know, you've done all your training.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're good at what you do. What does his software say that this guy is? You know, I got to imagine that there's some way to use that as like scouts, or, you know, are we going to pick this kid up? Or are we not going to pick this guy up? You know,
it is already like, well, from a personal like consulting standpoint, like I already do that. So I've been doing that since like 2020, working with different teams, or like, even down to the scouting side of things, but more so just like from like the strength program standpoint of like analyzing. So working in college, working in NFL, Olympic, So it's been used, but this is really for the kids. Like like I'm telling you, that stuff, like I've been doing that, and it's great, but it doesn't help to make Tyreek Hill faster. Like it does it does help the world, but it doesn't like change. It doesn't shift the reality for kids. So like I could tell stories about that stuff all day. But like, it's not. It doesn't really do much.
No, I mean, again, like I think one of the most impressive things that I've seen just knowing you and the time that I have is your sort of like demeanor and mindset. At least from the outside looking in, it looks the same as when it probably felt like you were like a duck with like your feet going crazy under the water back in 2017. You know, like you've built. I don't even know. I don't even talk about the numbers, but like I'm sure your company now is worth a lot of money. What, you know, and there's so many trainers I feel like that maybe start at the same point as you, or maybe even ahead of you, where you were, you know, back in 2016, 2017. If we had to split reality, and we had some sort of like alternate reality where you stayed just kind of like small-minded, or maybe as a trainer, like what was the biggest difference between, you know, that version of you in 2015, 2016 versus where you're at right now?
Well, like take away the knowledge part, because like you can read all day, you can study all day, you can get your PhD, but that doesn't make you a good person. None of that does. I think being successful in this industry, it's a value-based, service-based industry. It comes down to how good of a person you are. So if you're jealous, spiteful, angry, all these things, like if you go through all those lower level emotions, you never rise above like where you should be at. So like you can't be successful in this space, not in this space, being a bad person. You can't. Yeah. You can't, like, maybe you can go in the like healthcare route. I know people that are being indicted by the FBI that are now switching from the healthcare space into the sports space. Can't do that.
Yeah.
It don't work. You got to be a good person. So when I look at it, like when I was coming up in 2017, I prioritized giving the same experience to every person that walked in. So like, you're in college. Yeah. Probably didn't have any money. Yeah. I didn't give a shit. Yeah. You know?
And you treated me the same as the first rounders that you were training.
Didn't matter. Yeah. Right. So like, if you have that mindset, like this is years later, and now we're still in our, we're still connecting. Like, but if I treated you different, you probably like, dude, like, like, And then when you start being like, man, I want to invest in business, you might hit me up. Like, you know what I mean? Like but that's how it works. It's like, you play the long game. Yeah. You're not going to go fast. I know plenty of people that went way faster than me and then crashed out in their insurance salesman. Yeah. Or car salesman. Yeah. It's like if you continue to grow at that rate and you continue to be a good person and consistently humble yourself, everything starts to happen. Yeah. It's like as soon as you start to believe, oh, I made it. Oh man, that's scary. Yeah.
I mean, that's so Gary Vee too. Yeah. Like just the patience. You mentioned that you're 34. I was watching one of his videos the other day. He mentioned when he was 34, he was still working at his dad's liquor store. Yes. And just to imagine like where you can go from here is really exciting to think about. But you touched on this too, like, dude, like you didn't have any big time business degrees. You didn't have any, you weren't a Harvard MBA or anything like that. And you've scaled a business now to being worth a lot of money. Yeah. What was the process of that? And maybe like, what are some of the things that you had to do to surround yourself with the right people to kind of also help that process of growth and delegating and scaling and all of that.
Well, you think about it, like when you own a gym or you're in the trainer business, like think of yourself as like having 9 jobs. Like you're the marketing guy, the business guy, you're the scheduling guy, like you do all those things. So as you grow, you have to fire yourself.
Yeah.
And what people don't do is they don't fire themselves. Like I'm not good at the books and the finances. Fired. Boom. It's easy. I was the janitor. Fired. That was easy. Right? Yeah. And you just go through, and it takes trust. So you have to find people that you trust and then take over. And my first investor, I trained all 4 of his kids. And I'd known him and I trusted him. And he was like, "Who's your lawyer? Have you figured out this, and this?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're saying." And I trusted him. And he's a managing partner of our business now. And I still to this day trust him with everything. Because I've been around him, I've known him, you know, and like what I see people fail at is like they might not want to give up that aspect. Like, I have control here, or you know, like you have to build a team. Like we have 21 employees, 21, and I don't know how to do the marketing stuff the way they do it. I don't know how to do the legal stuff. I don't know how to do 80% of it. Only thing I'm good at is like some of the coaching stuff. You know,
you said some of the coaching stuff.
That's it. You know what I mean? Like outside of that, I have trust and I have faith. You could still lead from the back though. A lot of people don't know how to do that. It's like let people lead their thing and you're in the background. You could still draw up the vision and the goal. But you can't do it by yourself, and you got to invest in it. Because I looked at it this way: like if I looked at making money personally, I would have tried to be rich. I would have been rich by now. But I looked at, all right, if I can live on this little bit right here for as long as possible, I can stretch this as long as possible. It means every dollar that comes into this business can be used to grow other areas of the business. So that means marketing. That means business. That means all those other things. So if I looked at it as like, no, I made money, then those other pieces would have never grown. I had to give that up. So like, I never really, like I've been so poor before that like I didn't have, my cell phone was cut off, my car was repoed. Like, you know, I've been that poor. And as an adult, like being 18, 19 and not having anything. So like, didn't really care. Like anything above that was fine, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I didn't even give myself a raise until like after COVID, you know, like really like, so I wanted to grow the business. And the way you do that is like, I mean, there's probably people that work for me that make more money than me. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have to do that to grow, and you have to give other people opportunities. Like when I was coming up, coaches didn't get salaries. So I was like, I'm gonna give coaches salaries, give them full salaries. Yeah. Full time, you know? And then I worked, you know, to figure out what to do to get them working. But, you know, but yeah, that's and you can go really you can make a lot of money in this. But then it comes down to how do you spend it? Because if you spend money correctly, you can make a lot more money. Yeah. A lot more. And you can build something way more impactful. Yeah. But if you take it all for yourself, it's never gonna materialize into an actual company. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard somebody say one time that when you become an entrepreneur, you have 2 choices. You either have to evolve to become the absolute best version of yourself, or you're going to starve. Like, you have to, like, you know, people I think when they think, you know, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur just to do this and kind of like, you know, get comfortable or whatever. It's like, no, dude, like all these things that you're talking about, the ability to trust other people, to hire out, to delegate, to trust investors, to do all these different things. Like you have to do a lot of deep inner work on yourself. Am I not jealous? Am I not insecure? Like this dude knows way more than me. You know, am I worried that he's going to take the shine out of my business? Like I work so hard for this. And, you know, there's all these different internal things that you have to be able to flush out of your system in order to get to that level. So that journey of like personal development for you, is that something that you just have always been conscious of, or is that something that you've just been kind of pushed into?
There's a really good book. It's called the Bible. Yeah. It teaches you a lot of this stuff, but like just because you trust people doesn't mean you're not going to get burnt. I've been burnt so many times. I sat in one guy's kitchen. He asked me about my business, and I asked a couple more questions. I started telling him, and he went and he built exactly what I said to him. You know, and like, but you can't allow that to affect your next, you know, your next thing. It's like you realize you listen, you learn. You're like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to just talk freely to every every dad out there, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but, you know, and then you have people that steal from you. I've had people steal from me. Like, I've paid them a full salary and they've taken from me. I've had people live in my house and steal from me. And I mean, I can go on, but the point is that, like, you can't let those instances burn you away from trusting other people again. You can't be afraid of it. It's gonna happen. People are gonna rob you. People are gonna steal from you. People are gonna do you wrong. People are gonna say negative things about you. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
So the other real book that you should, outside the Bible, is the 4 Agreements.
Yeah.
So never take anything personal. Always do your best. What else we got?
Dude, it's been a couple years since I read that.
Yeah, but the main 2, never take anything personal.
Yeah.
Never take anything personal. So when someone steals from you, it's not you, it's everything else.
Yeah.
So I've had to consistently work on myself. And then also every time something like that happens, I have to check myself. Like, what am I doing? Because either you're allowing it. Like, there's a reason. And entrepreneurs aren't perfect. Like, you're going to make mistakes. Like, the way you communicate might have been wrong. You might have pissed somebody off. Well, you got to go work on that. And you got to have people around you that tell you, yo, like, you've been really on edge. Like, I don't like it. So yeah, like, it's just consistently looking in the mirror and evaluating where you're at as a human and, like, what values you have. There's a lot of narcissism in this business. Like,
Easy.
in fact, narcissism is actually celebrated in, like, the sports world, you know? So if you don't learn to operate, like, biblically and through, like, the reality of how you're designed to work, you can become very successful and very narcissistic and a very terrible person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It goes to the heart too, right? Like, you can have all of this cool impact, but if you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, eventually that shows in the work as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, our what we do is a fruit of the roots inside of us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like, now you're at a point where you've got all these things cooking. Like, what's kind of like the next step for you that you see?
Having my daughter. No, just
I love it. Dude, he's so locked into that, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Bro, he's a dad.
I got another one coming, so.
Another daughter?
2 daughters?
2 daughters.
Girl dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, next step is just continue, like I'm doing exactly what I planned on doing and where I'm exactly where I want to be. So now it's just like, it's literally just doubling down on it, staying focused on that and growing it. Nothing like, there's nothing that I'm reaching for, like another first rounder, another this. Like, I'm really just looking for creating more experiences within what I already have. Yeah. So nothing sexy.
You just seem really content.
Yeah.
And I love that. You know, there's a passage in Philippians. You know, everybody loves quoting Philippians 4:13. You know, I can do all things through Christ, right? And I feel like a lot of times that's used in a way which, you know, is good, that it's like, you know, I can do this and I can do that and I can do, you know, all these accomplishments, and we kind of think about what we can do through Christ, which is good. But if you actually read that passage in the context of that, he's talking about being content in whatever way, in whatever circumstance. You know, you can be going through the worst time. You could be homeless. You could be sitting, you know, sleeping in your car at the parking lot, or you can be now in the place where you're kind of the go-to guy in the industry when it comes to training somebody for their speed or their pro day or whatever that looks like. But the contentment, that's where we need the strength through Christ to be able to be content in both of those situations.
Yeah, you're fulfilled. And like, that's like when you're in alignment, that's what happens. Like, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I have.
Yeah.
Shoot. Hey, probably enough for both of y'all.
Yeah.
But when you, like, there's this thing where you chase things and you chase, like, I look at it from a hormonal level. Like, you have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. And these are chemicals that your body produces when you're in alignment with what God wants for you. So when you're in alignment, like when you're at home, you'll get the dopamine. When you get the serotonin, you'll get all these things. But when you're out of alignment and you reach for it in other ways, like if you're drinking, it's going to kill your dopamine stores. If you're smoking, it's going to throw off how you process. It's going to throw off your deep sleep, which also throws off your growth hormone, which will affect your testosterone, which should then affect your dopamine, right? So it's like all these different things that are from a chemical level that if you're out of alignment, you'll reach for that alignment in another way.
Right.
Girls is a huge thing, especially for guys, like, or you know, whatever, it could be smoking cigarettes, whatever it is you're reaching for, it's something that's external that's trying to give you the same dopamine feeling you would have if you're aligned. But when you get aligned, you get that naturally. So like I feel like when I used to smoke and drink and go out and have fun, like you kind of have this like buzz going for weeks. And it's like, I can't wait for the next one. Well, I feel that with like my family and what I'm doing, because it's aligned. My family's actually a part of my business now, you know? So that's the thing that I feel like is the hardest piece to learn. The hardest piece to learn is like how to feel fulfillment directly from things you might think are boring. But once you're in it, you have the feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What you know, I know that obviously like faith has been a big part of that sort of just reckoning for you or understanding for you. Like what faith is, what role do you feel like faith is playing in your life right now?
Yeah. So like I grew up in the church and then I got away from the church. And then I came back to it, and I came back to it really interestingly. Like I came back to it very objectively, like reading the Bible like I'd read any other book. Then I was like, whoa, like this is for real. Cause like I started following things like, all right, well, you know, I would drink here and there, smoke here and there, you know, whatever. Like you know, before I had my wife, like different girls here and there. And I'm like, let me just like try it. Like, you know how God says, like, test me.
Right.
Like, with the tithing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was testing God. And I was like, wow, okay, I feel better. And then I backed into my faith that way. And then going to church more. And then, like, going to Bible study more. Like, that's why I got married. That's why, like, you know, so I started backing into it and, like, realizing, like, it's not, like, sometimes people use God to try to be successful, or use God to try to have, like, successful pieces of their life. But it wasn't that for me. It was really just like leaning on God to feel the fulfillment and like, what is it actually going to take? And, you know, and it's almost like that's the most scientific book in the world to me, because it teaches you how to regulate your emotions and your hormones and your systems that your body works on. And that's, you know, I was able to look at it from like a physics level, like, you know what I mean? Like, if the Bible could be rewritten in 2023, it would include words like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and it would talk about sleep and recovery, and like it would talk about
it's so funny how, and everything that you're mentioning is like, you know, people chase after these sort of cheap substitutes for what God's like purpose is. And even like there's so many principles in the Bible for business, for health, that I've like the world or just, you know, secular, whatever, you know, influences, they try to like strip out God. And there's still power in it. Like if you were just go through and read the book of Proverbs and you didn't have a relationship with God, there's enough wisdom in there for you to be successful and have a good life.
Start a business, grow a business.
Right.
Start a family, grow a family.
But they try to strip out that, you know, I know one thing is, you know, visualization, manifestation. You know, I do the vision board stuff, all that stuff too, but that's just from Proverbs. Like as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, right? Like it's all of those things that we see like these sort of cheap substitutes for what the real thing is.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are afraid to sit down and have the practice of reading. And like, so it's the same in my industry. Like if you want to be really successful as like a sports scientist, which is kind of like what I am now, it's like you need to read research hours a day. Like you need to, every research paper that comes out, you need to read, dissect, all that. Well, if you want to be really, really, it's like my playbook. If I want to be a really good quarterback, I need to watch a lot of film.
Yeah.
I need to watch film. I need to practice. And if I want to be really good in my relationships and business and life, there's like a really good book that you could use, and it's called the Bible. And like, I don't care if you believe in God or not. And I read the Quran for a couple of times, like, and not like all the way through, but like whatever it is. Like there's playbooks out there, so I'm not saying there's only one, but like that's the one that resonated with me that I could understand and like immediately see a shift, you know, and everything like when you're talking like how everything grew, the only difference that I had was removing things. I wasn't adding things. Does that make sense? Like I started removing, all right, I'm not going to drink. All right, I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to mess around with girls. I'm going to get married. Like I started removing everything and then everything started blowing up.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's you know, it's you know, like you said, testing him. and seeing what he do for you, man. Dude, Les, where can people keep up with you on social media, bro?
Yeah, Instagram, Les Spellman, Twitter, same thing. Universalspeedrating.com for speed stuff. But yeah, just DM me. I usually do respond. Like
you're pretty good.
I always respond.
Yeah,
I spend time like doing that. Same on Twitter. So hit me up.
The DMs are open.
DMs are open.
For all the right reasons.
Yeah, for the right reasons. The right reasons.
Yeah.
None of the wrong.
My guy, Les, bro.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, dog. Seriously,
sir.
man. It's just like so cool to see just the growth that you've had over these last few years and to see all the like just amazing things that you're doing, man. I'm just blessed to know you and
likewise,
excited to see what's coming for you, dog.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
We got to do stuff together.
Let's do it, dog.
Yeah.